curiosity why.
Mad Bricks webcast,
Where the human spirit flies. Mad Bricks webcast, where the human spirit flies.
Welcome to the Mad Bricks webcast. We have very distinguished guest today. Is a very returning guest, very well known. If you are in healthcare, if you don't know him, you are living under the rock. Everybody knows him. Dr. Robert Pearl is coming on the show. Before the show, just let me bring my co-host, beautiful blonde, and somewhere in the hurricane center. I don't know. She's flying or she is in the. Still she has a home or not, I don't know. Let us find out. Welcome, Susan Davis, Dr. Susan Davis. Your home is intact, no hurricanes, right?
All is well. No, it's a quiet knock, quiet summer thus far in South Florida. Yeah, all good. We're home, coming to you live from Southwest Florida. Just normal.
As long as you're not flying away, that's good enough. We can do the. We're going to talk about longevity a little bit, and then about technology. He's a cheerleader for technology, and also he wrote a very critical piece on the longevity. Dr. Robert Pearl wrote it. It's very impressive. That's why I wanted to call him back and talk about that, because before physicians talk about, a lot of these people are talking so much of a nonsense, which is true or not, we don't know. We have to learn. We have to actually learn from people like Dr. Robert Pearl. Before that, I had a small, impromptu video, and then I want to show. Maybe I hope a couple of minutes is a patient, like 3-4 minutes. I had an interview with Mayor of Silicon Valley, the happiest city of just 3 minutes. Happiest city in the United States is called. That is the police chief of there, how the mental health of the police officers do. This is a 3-4 minute interview, very short interview. After that, I'll introduce you, Dr. Pearl. So Navia, can you play that video? Good friend of mine for a long time. He is really doing outstanding job, and the Fremont is the happiest city in the country. Elected, he has elected actually. So, Dr. Salvan, thank you for joining with us. Let me ask you a quick question about the health of the environment of our Fremont. Nowadays everybody is worried about climate. Everybody is worried about nice parks to walk with the children, and it gives us a lot of powerful mental well-being by doing that. For the elders, for the youngers, that is a very part of the community. Yeah. What you're doing with the parks and all those things.
Well, yeah. So we're just making Fremont the happiest city in America, and it's been 7 years in a row. And I think primarily it's our parks, our open spaces, our hills. So we have such a beautiful environment we live in. We've got Mission Peak, we got Coyote Hills, we got Don Edwards on the West Bay. We have a beautiful Lake Elizabeth, and we preserved the 450 acres around there. We're also adding more park spaces, connecting more trails, all the way to Dumbarton Bridge, from Milpitas to Fremont. And so we're building a new park in Palm Avenue. We've got Vallejo Mill Park that opened recently. We opened a rose garden. So we're trying to create more places for people to be able to walk, enjoy, have peace, and mental strength. So we want to create more of those spaces. And nature is one way where we can connect with that. Great. We're also investing a lot of resources in our seniors for mental health as well as the youth.
Great. Yeah. Let me ask you a second question. You're also commander-in-chief of the city. You're running the police department. A lot of calls to the police departments are mental health related. Yeah. So how do you solve this problem? You think what way we can solve this problem? How are you addressing that problem? And also, the third question I have is, who is taking care of you guys that when you are under pressure, including the police officers?
Yeah, so when people have a problem, they only have one solution: call the police. Not everything should be go to the police. There's a lot of mental health issues, other disturbances, where maybe social workers or mental health workers could do a better job. And so that's something that our dispatch prioritizes. We do have a MET team, which is mobile evaluation team, which is a police officer paired with a social worker and a mental health clinician. So that way they can figure out what the best way is. Also, we train our officers to deal with different communities, do bias training, work with people with autism or other mental issues so that we can do de-escalation. A lot of these things can be handled through training. And so our police officers are asked to do more and more every year. And so that's where we're trying to figure out which ones can be dealt with ahead of time. We also work on prevention. We prevent these problems beforehand through education, working with folks that have mental health issues. So it's a constant thing that we're working on.
So you're by profession a veterinarian doctor, and a lot of animals and compassion, stray animals. Who is taking care of any alternative process for those people? Suppose some citizen finds a stray dog or something is suffering. What is there any alternative situations you
Well,
provide?
in Fremont, not only do we love our people, we love our animals as well, and they're part of our families. And so we have lots of humane groups that step up and help our community. We have our Tri-City Animal Shelter, which also helps address these issues. And of course, private veterinarians like myself also serve the need when people come to us with issues and concerns. So it's always, we're always trying to make sure we're taking care of all the animals and taking care of all the people that are in our city.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
My name is Ramana. I'm a MedBreaks podcast host. Let me ask you, Chief, that when you get up in the morning and you do a traffic stop or you go someplace, you don't know when you're coming back. When you're coming back or not. No, not you personally, but it's always life at stake, right? That kind of pressure builds up indirectly. How do you deal with that pressure?
I think when you make the traffic stop, you treat every individual in every instance in real time. So you are paying attention to what goes on, who you're interacting with, and what's going on around you at that specific time. So if you devote, just like in any other thing that you do, if you devote all your attention to that, you can pay attention, you can pick up on those different cues. So I think as long as you pay attention to what you're doing and you do those things with passion and intention, you can handle that. You can handle the pressure.
No question about passion. The question I have is, that's a pressure you build up on when I'm coming back and see my children back, is it that slowly builds up in every officer? Are there any measurements you do, kind of a therapy session?
We have a very robust wellness program at our police department, and during that time, an officer, if not only if the officer believes that they've seen something that they need to be debriefed on, but if the supervisor or if another officer sees something that they believe that officer needs to be debriefed on, we provide those services.
All
right. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Let's go. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me come back. Let me introduce you. This is
Ramana, it sounds like in Fremont, you have to be happy.
You have to be happy.
7 years in a row, and they're not going to let you be unhappy. They've got a lot of things in place to help people remain the happiest.
The most important thing I liked about Susan, the mayor of Fremont is a veterinary doctor. His father is also a veterinary doctor. He is a veterinarian. I want a different kind of people really in the political positions. I hope Dr. Robert Pearl runs the office one day. Then the police chief is an MBA. He is a Master of Business Administration he has. And then he did a Air Force veteran. So those kind of people coming to run the administration is
Excellent
really
backgrounds, a wonderful mix.
Let me introduce you, our distinguished guest tonight. Longevity is one of the hardest topics in the world. Every week, social media influencers, technology entrepreneurs, celebrities, and media personalities confidently tell millions of people how to longer. Longevity is not built on viral videos, isolated laboratory findings, or the latest supplementary trend. Okay, that is a it is built on decades of clinical evidence, population health, prevention, and the disciplined practice of medicine. Our guest doesn't speculate. He has spent his career improving healthcare at the highest level. Dr. Robert Pearl is the former CEO of the Kaiser Permanente Medical Group, Kaiser Permanente, where he led more than 10,000 physicians caring for over 5 million patients. He is a Stanford faculty member, a Yale trained physician, best selling author, Forbes healthcare contributor, and one of America's most respected voices on the future of medicine, artificial intelligence, and healthcare transformation. Please join me welcoming Dr. Robert Pearl. Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Pearl.
Thank you, Ramana and
I did a
Susan.
justice for your introduction. That's not enough. I can write a long all your books. It can go pages. Thank you for joining.
It's always a pleasure to join the two of you.
So,
Nice.
Dr. Pearl, you wrote a critical piece on longevity recently, and I loved it. There is so many videos. Everybody, from India to a small town India to give you how to live longer. You take alma, you take curry powder, turmeric, all kinds of things they say that you live longer. What is reality actually? What is a myth? What is the secret for longevity?
Well, the first concept I'd like listeners and viewers to understand is there's longevity, but there's also health span. How long you live and how well you live for those years. And I think it's important that people focus on both. And there's good news in both. So the commonly recommended approaches involve things like obviously not smoking. It involves being able to exercise 150 minutes a week for moderate type exercise. You should be eating, I like to tell people, eat 5 colors a day. I have blueberries, I have orange juice, I'll have an avocado, all built into the day to day. And your weight, a reasonably good place. And you want to be able to manage things like your blood pressure, your blood sugar, the opportunities that we have to be able to improve our health. And doing that can add up to 10 years to people's lifespan. And the really positive part of that aspect is that most of those years, something like 90% of those years, will be good years, years that you are functional. And I'll add one more piece to this, if that's okay, which is research out of Yale, which showed that contrary to what most people would think, as you age, and they looked at people past the age of 65, these are the Medicare number for that, 45% of them actually improve either in their physical health, their mental function, or both. And so I think the first thing I would say is that the pessimism that has permeated this, well, it doesn't really matter what we do, or there's little that we can accomplish, or yeah, you can live longer but not live healthier, or it's inevitable downhill slide. I think that we have to throw that away. At the same time, to what you just said, is there's no shortcut. There's no peptides you can take. There's no chemical you can take. There's no blood transfusion or plasma exchange that you can do. We can go through all of the pieces of that have not been shown. Now, I'm not saying they couldn't possibly work. I'm just saying, based upon the literature that I've read in scientifically evidence-based, large enough type studies, they show that these quick fixes just simply are not effective.
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say. I'm like, Dr. Pearl is going to come right out at the start with the same old, get your sleep, go for a walk, eat your veggies. I mean, that's not the quick fix. There's nothing, people's like, what? That's the secret to longevity medicine? And then you're going to wrap up your opening statement with no injections? No plasma no plasma exchange, no gallon of this, dip me in that, and I'm gonna come out, you know?
All right, Susan,
Right.
I'll tell you the truth, but you can't let anyone else know. I'm sure no one else
Promise.
is listening in, right? Yeah. I do take creatinine every day. Creatine every day.
Creatine.
I have read the literature. I think there's some evidence that it helps restore muscle function. I'm a big athlete. I run every day. I lift weights. And so I'll want to take creatine to be able to hopefully let them regenerate and grow and become stronger over time. I can't tell you it really works. There's some data on maybe mental function that it preserves. So I'm not telling you that it's for sure, and it's certainly not the only thing. But when you start combining that with exercise, particularly both strength training and aerobic training, and you put that in the context of good nutrition, you have a good opportunity. Now, there are some people who have vitamin deficiencies. And if you have a vitamin deficiency, obviously taking vitamins is going to restore that and undo that. And so it's not that people shouldn't check around it, but let's go back to that Yale study. And maybe I shouldn't tell people this, but in the Yale study, they found that people with an attitude, a growth attitude, that life is not over at any given age, I can get stronger, I can live better, I can live longer, they actually did. So whether people want to be certain something is going to work or not, that attitude, whether it just allows them to go out every day, put their running shoes on and go to the gym, or whether it actually has that effect, time will tell. But right now, there's just a lot of things that people can do, including the ones we've known about for a long time, that will allow you to, as I say, live both longer lifespan and better health span.
Yeah, if you go down to the basics and then break those down, stay in the lane. Don't be looking for all the magic, quick stuff, but break down, like you said, creatine. I mean, there's a lot of new research out today that, we've been talking about muscles and everyone thinks of bodybuilders and maybe just to improve your workouts and your musculature. But now there's a lot of stuff out on brain function. You referenced just ever so briefly. So I think truly one of the answers for all of us is that boring answer, get your sleep. We can break down how to do that better. How to do exercise. We can break down how to do that really individualized, personalized. And we might even get into AI on this, since I know the two of you are going to head there in a moment anyway, Ravana. I know you guys can't resist, because AI personalization is happening in self-care and prevention, in middle of healthcare, post, pre-post, all of the above. But to wrap up my thought, if you break nutrition down into the micronutrients, we can get better there. So we can't take the boring topics we've been talking about forever, which is sound nutrition, sound sleep, sound exercise, regulating your mind, right? In that more positive, staying upstairs in the sunshine suite, preventing yourself from going down into the dungeon as often as you can. And we will live longer. So Ramon, I'm sure you're chomping at the bit to bring in AI somehow or another here.
Yeah,
Or
I'll
any
bring
other
later on AI. We have a lot of time for that.
Good.
I wanted to ask you, I act as a doctor on TV, on screen,
Yeah.
but I'm not. What is a creatine and what is that? Is a vitamin or what is that? Please explain to me what are you taking? Creatinine? What is it? What did he say?
Creatine. It's a protein that has been shown to facilitate muscle regeneration. When you lift weights, what you do actually is you break down the muscle, and then the healing process, the muscle gets stronger. That's the basis for what you do. Similarly, although in a different kind of way and not as muscle specific, when you run long ways, your muscles tire. I don't know if you've been following the World Cup. You probably have. You can watch those folks in the overtime period. I can't even imagine how they stay vertical, but you can watch them suffer. And these are the world's most highly trained athletes. Muscles have a limited amount of function, a limited amount of the substance that gives them the power, that gives them the energy. And the creatine has been shown to allow that muscle to rebuild the energy and faster than if you don't take it. And as I say, what I like about it is there doesn't seem to be any major studies showing downsides, complications, and problems unless you have an associated problem like maybe kidney disease, in which case you should discuss it with your physician. So that's why I take it. It's like what do I have to lose? I buy it at Costco. It's like, $30 for a big tin. Take a spoonful, a scoopful every day. But outside of that, I think the only area that remains very controversial are the injectable peptides. And there is some controversy about whether they are fully safe. I'm not an expert around it. I won't comment around it, but I'd like to see some scientific studies, both on the efficacy and on the limitations, potential complications, before I commit that to my body.
In theory, they should be magnificent. In theory, we're replacing what we're not making any longer, what our bodies did make in our youth. And now, yeah, I mean, I'll take a gallon of each. I'd like a little bit more research myself.
Yeah, theoretically, all these ideas have good theoretical basis. But what medicine has learned across many centuries is that that's the starting place. You create a hypothesis, then you test it. You take one group that are placebo, you take one group that you give it to. You don't know which is which, whether the injection was just purely saline or whether it's actually has the substance. And then you follow them for a certain amount of time and you say, is there a difference? Is there not a difference? Were there complications in one, not in the other? That's the studies that we need. And again, I could be wrong because it's not, my primary area of focus, but I've not seen any of those well-controlled, double-blind, large enough studies. So statistically, the outcomes are significant.
I think I'm sorry, Ramon, I just on top of my
Go
mind.
ahead.
Some of the other technology from some guests that we've spoken to over the past year or so, just some of the newer tech and gene therapies, vector medicine, frequency medicine. There seems to me like there's areas that we can work on our longevity and or our time here on earth with looking at medicine in a different way in our diagnostics and in our prevention and being able to get upstream sooner. I mean, I love the idea of a vector medicine. I believe the comment was, vectors change long before labs scream, which leads towards biomarkers. So that was a mouthful, but what do you think about all the new, gene therapies? We can send in a nanobot and chop out the bad guy and replace it with a good one and then grow my hair back.
Well, I just wrote an article for Forbes about the gene therapy. It's very, very complex. This is not something you just send in a vector, chop it out, and have it repair. This is changing your underlying genetics that are sitting there, and there's a lot of problems with it. On the other hand, there's major advances happening. NYU just published data on the use in embryos of doing this for children that otherwise would have life-threatening terminal illnesses, and it was very effective without having many of the complications that were associated with CRISPR, which was a technique that we used in the past. So gene therapy offers massive potential, but as I say, that's not a simple fix that's out there. And that's why, I think we need to just follow it along and figure out where it changes. So far, what we know is that the tried and true, the boring stuff that takes forever, definitely works. What we can say is we have a lot of other things that are high potential. And if they're proven safe and you can afford them, why not do them? But don't expect that they're going to replace the tried and true, because they won't.
Agreed.
Dr. Pearl, all of us, three of us, defied the nature in a way. My daughter called me and said, "Dad, your brain is almost, like a 20-year-old growing better than before. I cannot believe you forget small things, but your understanding things are much, much better than any time I've seen." And I know Susan, I know you're all, the way you write, the way you talk is improving. The knowledge and wisdom is extraordinary. We are defying this world notion that you are mentioning, that world notion that is not going away when you get older. your brain declines. Tell us a little bit about that. That is a very interesting thing I want to learn from you.
Well, that's what I mentioned earlier, the study from Yale. And it's not just one study. I mean, they just published another study. It's an entire lab that's done a lot of work for a long time. Yeah, that view that says, you know, once you start to get past middle age, everything's going to go downhill isn't true. I think, though, what we've seen in the past are two things. Number one, people used to die. The average, you know, when Medicare was passed, 1960s, the average life expectancy was 67 years. So we never really saw people pass that except for a very short amount of time. And the second aspect to it is that I think what happened in the past is people just gave up. And that's a little bit of what I was saying about the Yale study. If you're going to give up, you will go downhill if you don't exercise. I mean, they've taken people in their 20s and put them in bed for like a week or 10 days. When they get out of that, they're like 20% weaker than they were before. They can barely stand because our body needs to be used. And if it's used, the muscles stay strong, the tendons stay strong, the bones stay strong, for the most part, most of us. And if we don't use it, you know, use it or lose it. It's the old expression. And what you're going to lose is you're going to lose your functionality. And so that's what we've seen. I think we had a view that at a certain point in your life, you're going to die soon. So you might as well just, you know, retire and relax. And I think right now, health insurance, and by the way, it's very much attached to whether you have good health insurance. People without good health insurance die 15 years earlier than people with good health insurance. Much of that is socioeconomically driven, but your life expectancy is probably going to be close to 90, unless you're a woman, by the way, in which case you have a 1 in 3 chance of living to 100. So we shouldn't underestimate
Susan,
what
you're ready for
longevity
that.
can look like, because particularly for someone right now who's you know, in their teenage or 20s, they have a 1 in 3 chance, and they're a woman, they have a 1 in 3 chance of living to 100.
Oh, that's a you really, that's a great lesson to learn from all of us. That brain is a very functional. You know, at this age of my life, I wrote a 15,000 line of Python code. I wrote. I mean, that's just really amazed me myself. I was amazed about that, the way the concept came out, the understanding. I think okay. Now your favorite subject. You are a cheerleader for all technology. I studied technology. I went through the all kinds of technologies. I love Anthropic, and I love ChatGPT, and I use all three. All of the I extensively use AI. Amazing. What amazing is that Dr. Robert Pearl, I don't know whether the AI is a different kind of intelligence. Maybe it's a different intelligence. We do not know. It is very surprising to me. It's actually more and more surprised to me is it reads my mind. I felt a lot of times. It has a very powerful, for your defense. I'll talk about criticism, combative thing. I'll come back later, but it has a powerful mind you're aiding that is unbelievably understanding you. It's something strange how the humans we should react for this kind of a new thing, new intelligence in your view.
Well, you're asking a set of very, very complex questions. But the first thing I want to say is I'm not a proponent of every technology. I was very skeptical about AI in the past. I was not a believer that it was going to be successful. I predicted Watson would fail, which it did, not because the technology wasn't good, but because the way that it was done in the past, which was dependent upon data sets, by which I mean information that it could analyze. If that information wasn't good, all it was able to do is to magnify what you gave them. You give them good data, it can magnify the differences and be able to predict a better outcome in one direction or another, read mammograms and detect cancer. But if you give it faulty information, I knew that it would give even more faulty answers, and that's a lot of what happened as a result of that. That's why I wrote the book ChatGPT MD, How AI Empowered Patients and Doctors Can Take Back Control of Medicine, because I could see this is a different technology. The second thing I'd add is that in the book I talk about, and I keep telling people right now, this technology is doubling in power every year. It's called exponential growth. That's the equivalent of your car going as fast as an airplane or a rocket ship in 3 to 5 years. And that's what you're really seeing in the experience you're having. Excuse me. That it's able to accomplish things now that it couldn't do a year ago. So I'm assuming that you didn't actually write all that code because it would have taken you probably 5 years to write it all. But you use vibe coding. Vibe coding didn't exist a year ago. You could have used Codex from ChatGPT or the Claude tool. And in doing all of that, that is the problem is that the human brain can't understand exponential growth. We understand arithmetic growth. If I give you, one of something today and one tomorrow, you can assume the next day is 3, 4, and 5. You're even able to understand geometric growth, that it gets faster as you get better at something. But exponential growth is just too fast. There's nothing in human experience that has ever increased exponentially until generative AI. And we don't really fully understand how it works. And what I say to people about it is don't take my word, Romana's word, or Susan's word. Try it. And by the way, right now we know that 40% of Americans use a generative AI tool today in order to be able to obtain medical information. Now, I mentioned to you before the show started, I was very amazed by a study that came out of NYU. And what they did is they took two recently released tools. One's called Open Evidence, that are designed for doctors. And doctors today rely on these tools every day. They do that in order to be able to understand a diagnosis, come up with an obscure disease. They don't have any question about that tool. And they compared that against the large language model, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. They're all basically the same, or equivalent, not the same, but they're equivalent. And they found that the large language model was better than the somewhat expensive $600 a year tool, or the one that has a lot of advertising in it. And that to me is very important. And why it's so important is it says that across the United States today, the majority of households already have the tool that they can use to understand their diseases, to be able to figure out what they should do. And they can do it, and I will say reliably. Now, someone's going to say, wait a second, I heard about someone somewhere, something happened. And I set the context. 400,000 Americans die every year from misdiagnoses. 250,000 people die every year from preventable medical errors. And over 500,000 people die because the chronic disease they have, hypertension, diabetes, chronic heart failure, is not adequately managed in order to gain control. And when it doesn't have control, what happens next is that you have a heart attack or a stroke or kidney failure. According to the CDC, 30 to 50% of heart attacks, strokes, and kidney failures in the United States happen. So I start with all the problems in medicine, and then I say, will this technology tool improve them, or will it make them worse? And I believe very strongly, this is where I do think about generative AI tools, that if they are used in conjunction with a dedicated clinician, that they have the opportunity to save hundreds of thousands of lives and make medical care more affordable. I say to people that the combination of a dedicated clinician, generative AI, and an empowered patient will achieve outcomes, once again, exponentially better than any of the three could do alone.
Certainly, I agree with you.
I agree.
Certainly agree with you parts of it, because it is improving the health of access. People like in India, in small village, they can access that in my language. I speak Telugu. Yesterday I was talking in Telugu and Anthropic, and he responded in Telugu in my language. So it is a very powerful, no question about that. But there is one block that is blocking me to really cheerleading like you, is that did it solve one problem? It did not produce not even one single drug it invented so far. We have not FDA approved single drug is not there yet,
Hmm.
and it is not disease mechanism. For example, diabetes, cancer. It did not find any disease mechanism. It did not find yet, including the cold viruses, influenza. So I wanted to see some evidence in that way. That is, it can find those solutions. Then you can convince me. Yes, this is a holy grail of the entire medicine. You're emphasizing the lifestyle medicine and exercise, all those things. Yeah, I can help. Certainly, it can help. No question. And the healthcare system can be improved. Actually, in my view, AI is a brilliant in improving the healthcare efficiency. So that is what is it really plays a role in my view, rather than just the health of a patient. In my view, at this time, the healthcare is broken. Is a broken system. It is not functioning well. American healthcare system is evident everywhere. Nobody's happy. Patients are not happy. Doctors are not happy. Health systems are not happy. So you think that one day that I think AI can do that is better, that part. But to solve the problem of human diseases, still long way to go. I want to take your that I want to listen to your opinion on that.
Well, I agree with you. And in fact, I don't think it's really going to ever find new medicines. You're probably very familiar with the work done out of Google, which was able to figure out the protein structure and a lot of the both the problems, uh, the infectious diseases, let's say, and some of the internal forces that cause disease, as well as some of the treatments, involve very complex proteins. And knowing exactly how they're built and folded used to take years, and now they're done in a matter of hours.
But
So I think, yeah, but
I'm
I
gonna
don't think
beg.
that,
Yeah,
but that's not gonna find medications, and it's not gonna find that. In fact, people have to understand, how do these models work? So it starts with what's called pre-training. GPT is really, the middle letters, P is for pre-training. It takes everything that's been published. It's not designed to find things that haven't been created. It's just
Mhm.
an expert. It's like if I asked you a question, it would take you, weeks to go to the library and research it. It can look at every one of those books in the library, every one of the journals in a matter of seconds. This is the power that we don't fully understand of the technology itself. Then it has parameters to analyze it, and then it can generate an answer. So I would expect it to be very good at doing the things that we already know. Now, why am I so excited about this in medicine? And by medicine, I'm not talking now about basic science or drug development, but actually clinical medicine. Because what I just described to you is exactly how we train medical students. They read textbooks. They listen to lectures, which is basically the same equivalency.
oh yeah.
They're then taught a system to be able to analyze that information, figuring out what's more important and less important. Medicine is a probability profession. We want to think that it's perfect. It's not. You
It's
take
not.
your probability is 80% instead of 60%, you make the 80% diagnosis. You keep looking at the 60%, but that's what medicine is. That's what generative AI does. It's why I believe that, after maybe coding and maybe a little bit of legal work and a few other things, medicine will be the number one application of it, but it will be in the delivery of medical care. Now, don't get me wrong. Researchers are going to rely on it all the time because they don't want to go to the library and have to read every article. It's going to facilitate that process. But don't expect the technology to come up with the unique solutions. Don't expect it. It's going to help drug developers to be able to, again, have all that information, to do the things they could have done in a year or 10 years or 50 years, and do it faster. That it will do. But it's not going to say, oh my gosh, you didn't know that if you take, these two chemicals and mix them, you're going to get a drug that's going to cure cancer. It's not going to do that unless that information is already visible, and now it's going to be able to amplify it.
Well said. Only one exception I do that you're absolutely right about the medical education. It has to change. They need to learn mathematics, physics, a little bit of computational biology. All of them are important. The medical education is far behind. Far behind. What they're learning is that yeah, I can do in 5 seconds. Waste of time. Really does. So they, without a question, I agree with you. What what there is a mythology where some misrepresentation is this about the protein folding. I want to give an example. Protein folding, actually, he has not done anything. It is a brute force data they fed it to the force, and it spit out the protein folding outside a generalized formula. We did not know how we did it. We did not know the mechanism how we did came out that formula. So biology, disease mechanism. That's why he did not win the Nobel Prize in medicine. He won the Nobel Prize in chemistry. The reason was we did not know this is a very important distinction we have to make it, because medicine is still a judgmental. A lot of it, as you just said, that is 60%, 80% is still judgment of you. I judge you. I listen to your judgment. That
Yeah.
is my argument. There is a lot of misrepresentation in this protein folding side. It's really it is a real over hyped thing. It is really not solved any problem. It just generalized. I mean, it is solved some problem. I'm not saying it's a waste of time, but it is. We did not find the holy grail there. It's a long way for a holy grail.
Yeah. What I'm saying within it is that what it can do so far are simply the tasks that humans can do. It just can do it a lot faster.
Oh yeah,
And in
for
some
sure.
places, that's really important. Take
Yes.
genetics. There's something like 7,000 different single nucleic acid abnormalities. If it should say CAT for cat, and it says this is BAT, the B needs to be a C. If it's a B, the individual has the disease. There are not a whole lot of people with any of the specific ones, but there's something like 7,000 of them out there. To find that one nucleic acid would take a human a long time. This technology can do it quickly. Now, we still need to be able to have the solution. Genetic manipulation is a good example of a possibility. Maybe we'll have a different way to do it. So I tend to see this as saying it's not going to do anything uniquely creative that a human couldn't do. It's just going to do it faster and do it as well as the best. But what I was encouraging people to do is to say, if you're a patient, not a clinician, and you're going to see your physician, you call for an appointment. The first appointment's a week from now. Put all your information into a generative AI tool and see what it says. Don't do anything different because you're warning, and take it seriously, and see what your doctor says. As I said, I'm a runner. Runners have problems all of the time. I have no chronic diseases. I have no other medical issues, but I've run a lot of marathons. I have a lot of Achilles tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, anterior tibial syndrome, all of the overuse injuries you can possibly have. And when I have a problem, I always go to ChatGPT until I can see my doctor. And I'll tell you, 98% of the time, it fully aligns. And if you're a clinician, pretend you're the patient. Have you put all the information in place as though you were the patient, and see how closely it comes to what you have to say. And if the two align very well, do it a lot of times to see how often it happens, but do your own experiment with it. And I'm almost willing to guarantee that you'll be shocked, if you haven't done it already, with how consistent it is with clinical medicine. And if you don't think it is this year, just wait till next year when it's twice as powerful. So that's what I would encourage people to do. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. I'm encouraging them to experiment, whether they're the recipients of care or the providers.
Yeah, Dr. Pearl, I was going to say, give us a use case scenario for what you're thinking would be,
Sure.
6 months from now, early next year for patients. What should patients be doing to look into this? And you gave a great example, except you said you can't get into your doctor for a week. Now, in the States, it's sometimes a lot longer than a week. And I know in other areas of the world, we're talking months. So use case, what are they going to do? They've got months before they can see their provider.
Well, this is you're raising two very important things. Number one, you're exactly right. We in medicine don't think that making the patient wait is dangerous. If you're having a problem, go to the ER, we tell them. Well, that's not easy. It's expensive. It's a lot of issues around doing that. And the ER is just going to give you a quick answer. They're not going to take care of you. So this solves that problem. The use case there would be a parent, it's 11 o'clock at night, your kid has a fever. It's 103. What should you do? Do you go to the ER? You're going to wait. Do you wait for the morning till the pediatrician's office opens up? What are you going to do? I think that asking a large language model is safer than going to the internet or checking social media or trying to figure out yourself when you don't have a medical background. But the use case I like to talk about is hypertension. Hypertension accounts for 40% of strokes. Strokes are devastating, debilitating problems. 40% of them caused by hypertension. How well do we control the hypertension in the United States? Less than half of the time. Is it because we don't know how to do it? No, we know exactly how to do it. We have medications that work. When I was the CEO in Kaiser Permanente, we were over 90%. But how did we do it? We had a lot of nurses and pharmacists doing it. We were prepaid, so it made economic sense for us. Now think about someone with hypertension who wants to control it. Their doctor gives them a medication. They go home 3 times a day. They can have it measured with a Bluetooth device that was developed to connect with their generative AI. You can just get a blood pressure cuff, electronic blood pressure cuff at Costco, $25, and put the information in themselves. Now, at the end of the month, how are they doing? They're getting better? Great. There's no need to see the physician for that problem if you're getting better. And it's a simple first and second derivative calculation. But if you're not, why would you wait 3 more months to get the medication changed when you know it's not going to work? Making patients wait is never more efficient. We like to think that it is. It's not. The most efficient thing you can do is to solve the problem as quickly as possible. And when you do that, now you've reduced their chances. And by the way, it's not just strokes. It's also kidney failures and heart disease and a whole bunch of other issues that are out there. And the same is true for diabetes, except we control blood sugar less well than the 50% of blood pressure. So that's the use case to me, the first place that I would start. Because again, we spend $5.7 trillion a year on healthcare. The CDC data says we'd save $1 trillion, actually more than that, but let's call it $1 trillion, almost 20%. Imagine if the cost of medical care in the United States was 20% less with better outcomes. 20% less, not because we're skimping, not because we're getting rid of doctors, because we're better preventing heart attacks, strokes, kidney failures, and cancers. That to me is the real opportunity. And so far as you know, medicine has used these generative AI tools almost exclusively for administrative tasks. Data entry into the electronic health record, billing, claims, fighting with insurance companies using it to lower payments to doctors and prior authorization. We go down the whole list of ways it's being used. Maybe it's doing a little bit of good, I don't know. But overall, the thing we have yet to do, and I think it's an issue of the culture of medicine, is be willing to have the clinician ask him or herself, how could I use this tool with my patients to be able to provide better care? And this is where I think it overlaps with what you did, Ramana, because actually you can vibe code it. And if you can't vibe code it yourself, you can hire someone for a very small amount of dollars because they can do it in a weekend to put in the exact way that you would manage a problem. Now, where I think in the long run, another use case that I think could be very interesting is patients who've had a heart attack or maybe an infection in the heart muscle get what's called chronic heart failure. With medications, they're sort of okay. And then something happens. They get an infectious disease, the flu, or they get COVID. Something happens to tip the balance, and all of a sudden they go into what's called acute heart failure. Now they're going to likely die. but it takes a couple of days for chronic to move into acute. I say to doctors, if you could go to a patient's house every day, what would you do when you got there? Well, first I'd weigh them, because if they're gaining weight, it's probably water. That's heart failure. I'd listen to their lungs, because when the heart fluid backs up, it goes into the lung. I check their ankles, because if the water backs up, the ankles swell. I see if they can lie flat, because when you lie flat, the water comes out of your legs, goes to your chest, and it can tip it over into heart failure. And I see how many stairs they can climb, because that tells me if you can climb them as many or more steps than yesterday, you're not moving into acute heart failure. That's the first thing that starts to happen. And I say, okay, but a generative AI tool could do all of that. It can, with electronics into the lungs. It can take a picture, look at the ankle against yesterday. It can have you lie down and sit up, create a video, and compare that. It can do every one of those things. And now I see the problem 2 days earlier. Instead of being in the ICU 2 days from now, I change your medications, I do something else, and all of a sudden I can save you. That is the future of medicine. It's available. Maybe not quite right now. Maybe you need some assistance making it happen. But those are the kinds of things that a large language model could accomplish if clinicians started to say, how can I apply this for better outcomes? Right now, they see it as a threat. Right now, they talk about all the problems that it creates, but they ignore all the problems of today. And when you compare it against perfection, it falls short. When you compare it against what happens today, I think it offers opportunity, particularly with the dedicated clinician, to be significantly better. It's not as who's better, the doctor or the large language model. It's how is the combination better than either alone.
You know, every time I hear from you is a wisdom, nothing but a wisdom, Dr. Perro. You know, yeah, sometimes I argue with you about that technology part of it, you know, because I have a different physics background, and the physics, you know, involve all universal concepts we think about. But your wisdom is always you need it. And also that I was telling in the beginning, when are you going to publish a new book? Or when are you going to run for an office? Which one is going to be true?
Now we're getting into the tea. Do tell.
Well, okay. The second one is easy. The answer is never, because I think that I would probably terminate my life if I had to deal with all of the running through molasses that happens in the entire process of legislative development. So that was an easy one. The book is the hardest one. You know, I've never had a baby. I mean, I have a kid, but I have two kids, but I've never actually carried a pregnancy. But if I had to do that, I think that I'd probably have some questions about doing it again, although the brain is pretty good at getting you to forget. Writing a book takes me about 3,000 hours. And I say in my life, what are the 3,000 hours I'm ready to give up? But if I wrote a book right now, it would be a book about the intersection of GLP-1 drugs and generative AI tools, and how the power of those together could achieve things so much better than either one alone.
Woo, good topic. Good topic. We're gonna have to have a whole nother show, book or no book, on that topic alone. Those two combined, changing the face of healthcare, period. Changing lives, changing physicality across the board.
Yep.
Big time.
So I do plan to write an article on that for Forbes probably next month. So you'll get a quick insight into what it would be. But am I ready to spend 3,000 hours? I'm barely recovered from the last book. Finally, I've almost caught up with my life. So we'll see.
Exciting. Romana, you're muted. Romana, you're muted. Well, are you back? No. We can't hear you, Romana. I think it looked like he had a bit of a catastrophe. I think something fell. Well, no shortage.
Yeah. Can you
There he
hear me
is.
now? Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can.
Thank you, Dr. Pearl. Your wisdom is always welcome. And I hope you one day run for office and also write a book all together.
Well,
And then,
you and Susan will be the first two people to know. And if people want more information, they can go to my website, robertpearlmd.com, or they can subscribe to my monthly musings. It has about 80,000 subscribers right now. It's at no cost and there's no advertising. It's just simply an educational tool where I write about all these topics and summarize and link to the articles that, as you alluded to before, are available. And it's all free, and it's just all designed to encourage the kind of debate that we need. Because I think people are very aware of the challenges of healthcare, but they're actually far worse because what's missed are the opportunities. And they can't even imagine how good it could be if Americans were healthy, if diseases were prevented, if access was easy, and if costs were affordable. That's where I'm hoping to go. And with the two of you and some other folks, we can lead the way. So thanks for having me today.
Very exciting, Dr. Pearl. Thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to that Forbes article on GLP slash AI interface. That's going to be excellent.
All right.
I very strongly look forward to that. Thank you so very much. Very exciting.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you, Romana, if you're still on the line. Your picture has disappeared. I hope that's
I
not
don't
an
know.
alien abduction, but certainly I'm sure you'll be back
The
later
aliens
this
are
week.
coming. They're taking Romana. I can tell you he's gonna be first up. Romana, are you back? Yeah.
All right.
So
Good night,
all right,
Susan. I
Dr.
know
Pearl.
if you're in Florida, you're 3 hours later than me, so you think it's 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night now. So
Yes. Just
go
way past
enjoy
my
your evening.
bedtime. Thank you. I know what my brain does when I sleep. I
Tomorrow.
really want it to do those things. So
There you go.
we are
Sleep
about
is
the 9
essential.
p.m.
Yeah, somewhere between 6.5 and 7.5 hours has been shown to be the optimal amount. It clears your brain, it makes you live longer, keeps you healthier. It's all good stuff. There's a reason why humans sleep for a third of the day. If it wasn't valuable, we wouldn't do it. And so that's the evolutionary proof that sleep is essential. Somewhere between 6.5, 7.5 hours a day have been shown to be good. Eat well, 5 colors, exercise, don't socially isolate, don't smoke cigarettes, do those things. You'll live for an extra 10 years, 9 of which will be good. Thank you so much. Good night.
Move it or lose it, or entropy will win. There's your
There you go.
physics closer.
You
All right,
got
Dr.
it.
Pearl, see you again very soon. Thank you so very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.